The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Ramesh Piris and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. The President urges the world to support vaccination drive of less wealthy nations amid Omicron scare. The Pakistan's Prime Minister speaks to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to express his nation's anger and shame over the brutal killing of a Sri Lankan national. The former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to address the 5th IOC today. The Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health says 740 COVID-19 cases and 21 deaths detected yesterday. The CAA allows release of LP gas to market under 3 conditions. Sapagaskanda refinery to recommence operations on Tuesday. On news overseas, France to work with Saudi Arabia to resolve Lebanon crisis. In sports news, it's cricket, the second edition of the Lanka Premier League tournament to get underway today at the Kettarama Stadium. Local stories in detail. Underlining the threat posed by the new COVID-19 variant, Omicron, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa called upon nations that have the wherewithal to support the vaccination drive of less wealthy countries more effectively. Speaking at the 5th Indian Ocean Conference, the President stated that immense generosity extended by India, China, US and Japan, and all of whom donated vaccines to us either directly or through COVAX, were much appreciated. The President noted at the same time it is a matter of concern that the relatively slow rollout of the vaccines in some parts of the world has resulted in the emergence of a potentially devastating new variant of the virus that needs to be carefully monitored. President Rajapaksa warned that if existing vaccines are less effective against this new Omicron variant, the world may soon return to square one, adding that border closure and other restrictions, including lockdown, imposed once again with potentially catastrophic consequences. He stressed that the COVID-19 pandemic will not end until everyone, everywhere is inoculated against the virus. The theme of this year's conference centers on 3 topics: ecology, economy, and epidemic. After the lynching of a Sri Lankan man in Pakistan's Sialkot over alleged blasphemy, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has said he would personally oversee an investigation into the horrific vigilante attack, which he also called a day of shame for Pakistan. Khan has reached out to Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa earlier in the UAE. Pakistan's Prime Minister conveyed his nation's anger and shame over the horrific incident. The Prime Minister, Mahinda Rajapaksa, expressed shock at the brutal Sialkot lynching of a Sri Lankan national, but expressed confidence in Prime Minister Imran Khan's commitment to punish all those involved. The former Prime Minister and leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, will address the 5th Indian Ocean Conference today. The Indian Ocean Conference that is currently underway will conclude today and is being held under the theme Ecology, Economy, Epidemic. Discussions will follow on how the Indian Ocean region will combat the growing threat of climate change. The UNP leader Wickremesinghe is the former chairperson of the Indian Ocean Conference, having held the position from 2016 to 2019. The former Prime Minister Wickremesinghe will be joined by international dignitaries, including India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Singapore's Minister of Foreign Affairs Vivian Balakrishnan. 740 COVID-19 cases were detected in Sri Lanka yesterday. Accordingly, Sri Lanka's coronavirus caseload increased to 566,936. 474 individuals recovered from COVID-19 and were discharged during the past 24 hours, increasing total coronavirus recoveries to 542,010. 21 COVID-19 deaths were also recorded yesterday, increasing Sri Lanka's coronavirus deaths to 14,440. Meanwhile, the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health says 80,394 individuals were administered vaccine doses against the coronavirus yesterday. The ministry added that 14,693,801 individuals have been fully vaccinated in Sri Lanka. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, the best option.
Moving on with the local news. The Minister of Energy, Udaya Ganmanpila, says that operations at the Sapakaskanda oil refinery, which were temporarily suspended, will recommence on Tuesday, December 7th. On November 15th, it was announced that the refinery would be temporarily shut down for 50 days in order to save foreign exchange through the suspension of crude oil imports. The minister had said that the import of crude oil would be resumed as soon as the dollar deficit is overcome by obtaining credit facilities. The Tamil Progressive Alliance, led by Member of Parliament Mano Ganeshan, was registered as a political party by the Election Commission. Torch insignia was designated as the alliance's official symbol. Election Commission Chairman Nimal Punchiheva has confirmed this in a letter to the TPA Secretary, according to MP Ganeshan. He said the TPA formed at an event held in Colombo on 3rd June 2015 and launched by a Memorandum of Understanding signed by three party leaders, namely the Democratic People's Front, the Workers' National Front, and the Upcountry People's Front, and marking the 6-year journey facing two parliamentary elections, one presidential election and one local council election, had progressed as planned. The members of the Committee on Public Finance have recommended that if the import ban on rice, which was imposed last April, is to be allowed again, it should be done only after a proper forecast of the forthcoming Yalla season. The chairman of the Committee on Finance, Anura Priyadarshana, pointed out that under the prevailing special circumstances, the local paddy farmer has to logically analyse the situation and make predictions in order to give a fair price for his harvest, as well as to enable the consumer to consume quality rice at a reasonable price. It was emphasised at the Committee on Public Finance to obtain approval for an extraordinary gazette notification permitting the importation of kakulu, nadu, samba and other types of rice as per the order of the Minister of Finance. Another woman who was hospitalized following a ferry accident in the Kurinchankarni lagoon in Kinya, Trincomalee, has passed away. The Kinya police said the 43-year-old woman passed away last night while receiving treatment at the Kilinochchi General Hospital. Accordingly, the death toll from the incident in Kinya increases to 8. The death toll includes 5 children as well. The ferry that capsized on the 23rd of last month had been used by residents of the area due to the construction of the existing Kurinchankarni bridge. To end the local news, the headlines again. The President urges the world to support vaccination drive of less wealthy nations amid Omicron scare. Pakistan's Prime Minister speaks to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to express his nation's anger and shame over the brutal killing of a Sri Lankan national. The former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to address the 5th IOC today. The epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health says 740 COVID-19 cases and 21 deaths detected yesterday. The CAA allows release of LP gas to market under 3 conditions. Sapakaskanda refinery to recommence operations on Tuesday. That ends the local news.
In 200 meters, turn left.
This is not just my daily commute. I drive to power my nation's future. Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus introduces specialized motor insurance for you who drive our nation forward. Choose tailor-made insurance solutions, up to 75,000 rupees claim settlements within 3 working hours, exclusive discounts through Motor Plus loyalty rewards, easy and 0% interest payment plans. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on the main news story, The Consumer Affairs Authority has approved the release of domestic gas to the market from today, subject to 3 conditions. The government on Friday suspended distribution of all gas cylinders following the rise in recent incidents related to gas explosions and fires that have injured many people across the country. The sample of gas that were collected under the supervision of the committee appointed to monitor the 2 gas ships imported to the country by the 2 gas companies, along with Sri Lanka Standard Institute, Industrial Technology Institute and the Consumer Affairs Authority, were forwarded to the laboratory of the Sri Lanka Petroleum Corporation on Friday. According to the test reports released by the Petroleum Corporation and the recommendations of the relevant technical committee, it has been decided to issue domestic gas to the market with effect from today. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
And on Watchlight, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka announced that they will crack down on unofficial channels used to move remittances into Sri Lanka. The CBSL's Financial Intelligence Unit is working closely with law enforcement agencies to target grey economy remittance channels, as authorities suspect these of being used for money laundering. The CBSL further stated that the government will prosecute persons who were sending, receiving or facilitating the flow of remittances through unofficial channels, warning Sri Lankan expatriates not to take the risk of sending remittance to Sri Lanka through unofficial Hawala channels, which may leave them open to be prosecuted. That ends Watchlight.
Please be aware on institutes, registration and accreditation when you are selecting vocational courses which leads to achieve your future career goals. Do not waste your valuable time and money. Confirm institutes, registration and accreditation by TVEC. For more information, visit nearest District Divisional Secretariat offices and meet career guidance practitioners or skill development officers. Message from Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the World News. The Taliban warned against targeting former security forces. Dozens arrested after Sri Lankan lynched set ablaze in Sialkot, Pakistan. France to work with Saudi Arabia to resolve Lebanon crisis. The US and a host of allied countries have called on the Taliban to end the targeted killings of former members of Afghan security forces. In a joint statement, the 22 nations demanded that the Islamist regime respect its pledge not to harm former government or security personnel. It follows a damning report released by the Human Rights Watch documenting more than 100 executions and abductions of former Afghan government officials since the Taliban took control of the country. This is despite the regime's assurance that previous government workers would not be harmed. Dozens of people have been arrested in Pakistan after a Sri Lankan factory manager was beaten to death and set ablaze by a mob who accused him of blasphemy. Several gruesome video clips shared on social media showed a mob beating the victim while chanting slogans against blasphemy on Friday. Other clips showed his body set ablaze, as well as the overturned wreckage of what was said to be his car. The attack has caused outrage, with Prime Minister Imran Khan calling it a day of shame for Pakistan. France and Saudi Arabia have held a joint phone call with Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati, a gesture seen as significant in resolving an unprecedented diplomatic crisis between Riyadh and Beirut. The call was made on Saturday as French President Emmanuel Macron visited Saudi Arabia after trips to the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. The French president indicated that France and Saudi Arabia will work together to offer essential humanitarian assistance to Lebanon. Mikati said the call he had with Prince Salman and Macron was an important step towards restoring relations with countries in the Gulf. To end the world news, the headlines again. The Taliban warned against targeting former security forces. Dozens arrested after Sri Lankan lynched set ablaze in Sialkot, Pakistan. France to work with Saudi Arabia to resolve Lebanon crisis. That ends the world news.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Moving on to the development news. The State Minister of Foreign Employment Promotion Priyankara Jayaratne says more than 99,000 Sri Lankan workers have travelled overseas for employment thus far this year. The State Minister said this is a major boost to the country's economy. Speaking during the committee stage debate of the 2022 budget, State Minister Jayaratne said 300,000 workers will be deployed overseas for employment in 2022. He added the government is expected to earn $8 billion in 2021 with a goal of $10 billion for 2022. The State Minister mentioned steps have been taken to direct more Sri Lankan workers employment opportunities in the Middle East, and the government has entered agreements with South Korea, Romania, Japan, Israel and Malta, while talks are underway with the United Kingdom in this regard. That ends development news.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Moving on with sports news.
And on sports news, it's cricket. The second edition of the Lanka Premier League tournament will get underway today at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium. The 5-team tournament will be worked off in Colombo and Hambantota until the 23rd of December. The opening game of the tournament will see a repeat of last year's final, where defending champions Jaffna Kings will take on Galle Gladiators in Colombo from 7:30 p.m. Last year's champions, Jaffna Kings, will be captained once again by Tissara Pereira, while the Galle Gladiators will be led by Bhanuka Rajapaksha. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Cricket has confirmed that spectators will be allowed up to 50% of stadium capacity for the second edition of the LPL. The Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation has made arrangements to air ball-by-ball commentaries of the tournament via Vision FM on 107.3 FM in Colombo, island-wide coverage from Yatian Thota on 107.5 FM. In addition, live commentaries will be aired on 104.9 FM to Kandy, Matale, Kurunagala and Kagala districts. Coverage for Noora Eliya, Ratnapura districts will be on 102.1 FM and for Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Vaunia on 97.4 FM. Cricket fans in Jaffna, Malaythew and Kilinochchi can tune into 89.8 FM to hear the exciting second edition of the LPL tournament. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency through NSB U-Trust for 6 months consecutively. Send more money and increase the chances of winning.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Taking a look at business news, The Lanka Premier League Kandy-based franchise has new owners as Vernost Marketing Technology Solutions have stepped forward to co-own the franchise in the upcoming second season of the Premier T20 tournament to be held from December 5th to 23rd, 2021. The Kandy franchise was named Kandy Tuskers in last year's LPL and has been renamed as Kandy Warriors for the new season. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 co-sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners.
Economic news. Courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has announced a series of benefits to ensure that more migrant workers send remittances to the island via official channels. Apart from export earnings and tourism receipts, the foreign remittance inflow, which is the hard-earned money of the Sri Lankan migrant workers, plays a major role in strengthening the country's economy. In such a backdrop, the CBSL is offering more incentives, including 10 rupees above the rate to migrant workers who send remittances via official channels. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
This is the weather report.
And finally, on the weather report, the Meteorological Department forecasts showers or thundershowers to occur at several places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, Uva and southern provinces during the evening or at night. Fairly heavy rainfall above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa, central, Uva and southern provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur at a few places in the northwestern and north-central provinces and in Vaunia district. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. That ends the weather report.
Brightening the future of both village and city. Millions of rupees for the development of the nation. Strengthening the agri-heart of the nation. Prospering lives. Ensuring safety. Presenting the highest cash award. Strengthening the nation. Mahajana Sampatha. Ensuring prosperity. Mahajana Sampatha from the National Lotteries Board.
And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The President urges the world to support vaccination drive of less wealthy nations amid Omicron scare. Pakistan's Prime Minister speaks to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to express his nation's anger and shame over the brutal killing of a Sri Lankan national. The former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to address the 5th IOC today. The Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health says 740 COVID-19 cases and 21 deaths detected yesterday. The CAA allows release of LP gas to market under 3 conditions. Sapugaskanda refinery to recommence operations on Tuesday. In international news, France to work with Saudi Arabia to resolve Lebanon crisis. In sports news, it was cricket, the second edition of the Lanka Premier League tournament to get underway today at the Kettarama Stadium. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.